In advance, I must say that this is going to be a very hard video to make. This is going to be another one of those videos basically defending a few claims that were made to degrade me. The reason why I make these videos are to remind everyone that because of the position that I hold, I'm subject to these rumors being made about me all the time. I'm a controversial server owner who happens to be a big contrarian. Plus, I can be hard to deal with. But I'm still a really nice, charming guy who would always stand up for his friends and the players of his server. However, it doesn't change the fact that I hold a position, and people who hold a position get targeted by those who don't. My favorite example to back up that statement is the James Gunn Twitter fiasco. I'm sure we all remember when he was fired off of directing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 by Disney because of homophobic tweets that were resurfaced. If James Gunn weren't a film director for Disney at the time, no one would care enough to start retweeting posts of his to cost him his job. There's a scale to this, I'll admit. There's obviously a huge difference between owning Minecraft's biggest Marvel server to ever exist and directing actual Marvel films. But the same ideology applies. If I were just a regular player in the Discord server like everyone else, the players that I cut ties with would have never bothered to resurface these things that were dealt with earlier this year, which I will get into in a moment. With that being said, let's get on with debunking a few unfortunate allegations that were made recently. You know, I don't know how to get into it. I just don't. There's so much context and so much needs to be covered in order to deliver the full picture that I don't know where to go from. I'll start with a little bit of background. The recent allegations have been made during a time where a good portion of the players around Lucy are upset. Not with the server, but with me. Lots of things have been protested, and lots of decisions have been getting confronted because of this specific light that I'm slowly shining on myself more and more. However, it has a starting point to it, and I believe that the starting point is when I cut ties with two players. I mentioned this prior, and what I mean by that is there were two players that were becoming a liability to the time I spent online. Not as my players, though, as friends. You see, every player of mine is very important to me. It's a big server for its community, but that community is relatively small. I was still more than happy to attend to these individuals on the server if they needed me, but we had a friendship that I could no longer allow myself to condone. One of these players are Adam, and I referred to the other as Legful. Legful, whom I referred to as Eric in the Anshul video, was one of my favorite players. Literally in the top 2. He's played the server for a long time, and we've been through a lot. He's more of a friend to me than a player. Or at least he was. I'll be putting a link to Anshul's case file video for those who aren't caught up on that. But basically, after the events of Anshul, our friendship was completely morphed. In my eyes, because of Anshul, he put aside the years of our friendship and stopped committing both as a friend and as a staff member of my server at the time. He was no longer being a very good friend in my opinion, and we were getting in more and more arguments. One argument in particular, the tables were turned. I was trying to avoid the argument, and he was one inciting it. And just to clarify, when I say that he was no longer being a good friend in my opinion, I'm not saying that he was being a bad friend. I'm saying that he stopped being a good friend, as in the status. Oh, this guy's a good friend of mine. He stopped being a very good friend. He was just just a friend, a guy that I'm allegedly friends with. Anyways, it was a stupid argument, but I told him that I didn't want to continue any further, as things were going from stupid to personal, and that's dangerous territory for me. Like I told his sister, when things get personal, there's a lot more I'm able to say. Basically, I didn't want both of us to be at the same level of anger to the point where I'm just letting it all out. That would hurt him, and it would hurt me. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, basically. So before I could get to that point, I had to block him. He contacted another player to inform me that he wanted to apologize, which is a good thing that I have to acknowledge in all fairness. I declined, And later he messaged me on Marvel MC, where I informed him that it's best that I see him as a player from here on out. We'll circle back to why he's such a factor in a moment. But now, moving on to Adam. He was a very fun guy, but he went from being my Zoms Royale partner to this very toxic dude that I stopped being friendly with the moment I caught on to something. Our first big argument was when the Collector had a super strong weapon. Long story short, the Collector's main ability, known as the Power Primordial, had its reload function broken when we migrated from 1.12.2 to 1.14.4, and I didn't know about it until Zergarok returned to the server. We had a revamp in which we updated to 1.14.4, and he didn't return to the server for several months following that reboot. So with his character not in action, I didn't know about the weapon being broken. As a result, the player had a weapon that was one shot, two shot, three shotting people with these big explosions. Adam responded to it in a very ill-mannered way. You see, when this happened, it was a small debate between Rhino, the Collector, Beta Ray Bill, and Doctor Strange. Adam stepped in a way that wasn't his place and was quite disrespectful towards the Collector. I know I named them by their characters, but to understand this better, see them as players. The Collector was just a player defending himself, while a few upset players dismantled him for having a strong weapon. Adam, who isn't staff or member of the Marvel MC team in any way, essentially stepped out of his boundaries. He was saying things along the line of, "That weapon isn't coming back. There's no way no that would ever come back." Even Tiven responded with, "Oh, I don't know who you are to say that, but it was fine before." Basically saying, "Well, who are you? Are you staff? Do you have that authority to say that?" And and then Adam became very disrespectful. Started saying things like, "Are you effing high?" And it's hard to understand when you type like a fourth grader. Basically offending the guy. And it's not the Collector's fault that he has a strong weapon that I didn't fix ahead of time. It's not the Collector's fault. So the Collector didn't deserve to be disrespected like that. He doesn't make the weapons. He didn't make the weapons for his character. So he doesn't deserve to be in that position to where he's getting disrespected by someone who's mad that they died to that weapon. All they had to do was come to me and let me fix it. I told Adam to bench himself from the conversation so Billy and I can handle it. Adam did just that, although we argued later about it because he didn't like that I was quote unquote telling him what to do. And my reasoning was just being that he was offending the guy. So I had to tell him, Adam, take a bench from this. Let Beta staff member, let Beta and I handle it. But yeah, I was very disappointed in Adam at that point. I didn't know he could act so immature. But yeah. A short while prior to that predicament, I had already cut ties with him because, believe it or not, I saw something in him that I once saw in Anshul. The difference is with Anshul, I overlooked it because I can't predict the future. However, with Adam, I didn't want to take any chances, and just to establish specificity, when I say I cut ties with these guys, I'm saying that I cut all personal ties with them. It means that I no longer want to be friends with them or do anything outside of doing what I need to do as a server owner for them. They were both devoted players, they were very active, and very respectable guys toward the server. So me cutting ties with them doesn't mean that I want to create a problem with them. It's just that sometimes holding a position and maintaining a friendship that comes from that position is a recipe for disaster. So I wanted that to be done and leave it at that before it's an idea that it's too late to consider. Although from there, I think things went more and more downhill. Adam and I got into arguments a lot easier after that, and he served as a sidekick for Legful down the line. I can recall a time where he joined the server just to jump on the bandwagon about why Legful had just gotten himself jailed that day. So imagine joining the server just to argue with the owner about why that owner jailed someone. And I get it, they're friends. He can defend his friend, but he didn't even know what was going on. He just came on ready to get him out, and that's not necessarily a problem. The problem is that starts a problem. You know, the way he presented himself by doing that. If he was on the server already and was just like, okay, well, Spy, you could do this or that. He didn't even know what was going on. He just got there. He just heard that he was jailed and came right on to start hostility about it. From there, things got worse. I thought that by cutting ties with Legful, he'd be one less thing to stress about. In the end, he was the one who wanted to make amends. He wanted to do whatever he can to fix things with me, which is very respectable of the guy. However, at that point, all things considered, I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't. But in response to me no longer wanting to be his friend, he started firing shots at me every chance he got. Just to name a few examples, one time I was casually talking and he told me, "But I thought you liked drama," which doesn't sound very bad, but it's very uncalled for. One time I mentioned a relaunch of Logan Paul's clothing brand, and he shows me a picture of the hat that he wore in the Suicide Force video and plays it off like he's asking if that's part of his clothing line. That one needs a little bit more context, but essentially, and for those who don't know, I am a fan of Logan Paul. I like his videos. I have some of his merch, and that's okay. You can disagree, but he was throwing a shot at me essentially by by bringing up that topic with that hat. And Legful is not an idiot. He knows what he was doing. Another time, a heated discussion was being had between me and a couple of players, and I used the death penalty as an example in the point that I was making. And he responds with, "This has nothing to do with your hero, Tekashi 69," knowing that I tend to express a liking toward that rapper. So it's like every chance he got, he would say something to get under my skin. What makes this harder is that he's doing it to where I technically can't take action. I have to swallow my tongue and hope to have it in me not to engage with another shot with another shot in return. If this was another player and I knew the context on how these were verbal attacks meant to stress the person out or upset them, then I could acknowledge that and start off with a warning. But since I'm the owner, I'm expected to have thick skin. Otherwise, it looks like I'm muting him the chance that I get. I had no intentions of using my stat power to bully the guy or give him hell in game and on Discord. So he shouldn't be doing that to me. He just needs to just accept that I don't want to be his friend and give it a rest. Don't make me suffer for making that decision. Legful, you started putting me in a stressed out position, very uncomfortable position. And in my perspective, it looks like you were punishing me for not agreeing to let you fix our friendship. That doesn't make me regret not wanting to be your friend. That makes me feel like I made the right choice, and that now I have to put up with you until you get yourself banned from the server. This is what you're doing. That's not cool, you know. And I don't hate you or anything, man. I don't hate you, but you're giving me reasons to hate you, all because it didn't work out. Sometimes friendships don't work out. That's just the way it is sometimes, you know. But you can't punish me for not forcing for it to work out. Hope that gives you some perspective. So Legful is mad at me for ending the friendship and not giving him the opportunity to fix it, while Adam has developed a bone to pick with me over a course of several hostile disagreements, such as the situation with the collector I just mentioned, which resulted in me having to revoke his character, Captain America, him having a go with me about Thanos being on my team, and I could be wrong, but I think he blames me for him losing his Adam Warlock character due to inactivity, and etc. So two things before I move on to the next sentence. So the way Adam acted with the collector in that situation, he was Captain America at the time, and I don't think someone who treats players like that deserves to be Captain America of all characters. So when that happened, I felt it was right to focus character, and staff didn't disagree. However, he did plan on switching to Adam Warlock. So next thing I did was just read his application for that. But I did revoke Captain America from him before that. So that's just 6 months to make clear. So which means now you have two players that I no longer see eye to eye with, and what they do next basically incite confrontation with me all the time. And they drove many of the things that made the server a stressful place for me, like uniting a group of players to wear the default Roblox skins, come online on the server and bypass the censored word filter, uniting a second group of players to come online during an event and spam bypass filter again and kill players in a reinforced no killing area again on the day of an event to intrude that event to make it harder for me to host the event with all these distractions basically, along with breaking several other rules, plus making server debates about SpyJay problems instead of actual server topics. So one time there was a meeting about my team, the Infinity Watch. Another time there was something about I can't remember the topic right now, sorry. But basically it was about the server. And when it was his turn to talk, he made it all about me and dove in things that he can stand about me. And that's not right. I get that I'm a server and all, but he's making it a personal thing. And that's not how I would like to bring my server in an ongoing right direction. Because those were things that had nothing to do with the server. Not even my position as a server owner. On top of that, when I took action on those players for breaking down the rules, they joined the crowd in making me out to be the bad guy for it. So I obviously had to take action on those players that did that during the event. And they were temporarily banned for a couple days, and everyone got mad at me for it. And I'm not going to defame them or anything. I'm just going to say this. If players do something to get banned, justice must be served. It's as simple as that. So, for anyone who still has that in their head, keep in mind that I wouldn't have had to ban them if they didn't do that in the first place. Because obviously I wouldn't just ignore it. Yeah, anyways. Before I go into the situation with the case file and the allegations, here's why I brought these two people up. You see, when you're on good terms with someone, as human beings, we primarily see the good in them, the best in them, and we enjoy their company. Up until the moment they do something that you don't like. No matter how big or small the thing is, it becomes very easy to see the negatives. When someone on good terms does something that upsets someone, in that moment, the mind is more open to looking deeper into more upsetting things that they might have done in the past. This is what happens to friendships all over the world. The friend does one thing, the friend doesn't like, the other friend disagrees with that thing, and they're bad for each other and need space. I'm not saying those friends should leave it that way, which probably would have ended things better if I made that decision. But what I'm saying is, the biggest rivalries are built from the skeletons of old friendships. Think about that. With that being said, in the light of Adam essentially hating me now, he decided to share a screenshot with the community of an old player of mine in the middle of an entangle with me on a Discord video call. Here's the problem with this resolved predicament. The entanglement happened back in early mid 2019, I want to say May, and the screenshots were leaked by the individual I'm speaking to in those screenshots back in February of 2020. So this thing with the scandal, with the girl, or whatever you want to call it, this happened back in May of last year, so over a year ago, and they leaked the screenshots of that several months ago at the very beginning of this year. But as you guys know, this is recent news. This is something that we're diving into right now. So you see what I'm saying? This is basically what I'm saying. This is old news. It was resolved at the beginning of this year, and it's only now being a problem. And I'll explain everything, don't worry. I shoved those screenshots down a pipeline and resolved the issue with the individual on the day that they leaked them. I had another conversation with the person after I heard about the screenshots resurfacing, and I asked them to directly confirm if they genuinely believed their initial accusations of assault, harassment, and or extortion. It turns out I was simply being stubborn and convincing that night, and according to the person, they are miles and miles away, and at any time they said that they could have just logged off if they wanted to stop what was going on. I didn't pressure this person, I didn't force them or extort them into anything, and everything they did was a result of what they were comfortable with and willing to do. So just one thing I'd like to address is that since there was no harassment involved, there is nothing on the table to sully me with. It's on the same spectrum as the ERP thing we all express disagreements with all the time. People are never on the same page with it, and while some individuals got called out for doing it, it's not a bad thing at the end of the day. So yes, I got into that entanglement with someone, and the only thing you can do about it is judge me subjectively. However, do the cops need to be involved? Negative. I don't know exactly when the screenshots were surfaced, but what I do know is that it was months after the initial incident, when everything had already been taken care of. Plus, it was after I cut ties with Adam and Lekful. So, back to Adam. This was all completely unnecessary. You saw those screenshots originally back when they first leaked, before we had our personal falling out. And you took the liberty of resurfacing them yourself when we were no longer on good terms, so that way everyone could be just as infuriated with me as you were. That's extremely fucked up. So here's what I'm saying. I saw a second screenshot of the person from the screenshots venting to Adam about the situation on the day that she leaked them out of anger with me. So that basically serves as proof as how I know it came from him, and how I know that he knew about it since then. And he knew about it all this time. I suppose at the time we didn't have any beef at the time. He just knew and didn't say anything. So this goes back to what I was just saying about when you're on good terms with someone, you see the good in them, and when you're on bad terms with someone, the mind is more open to seeing them as the bad guy. So what I'm saying is he knew about it, and he waited until he was angry with me or hated me or whatever, basically until he had a bone to pick with me, to show other players, and then now you have this drama and speculation of me. Adam, I know that you can't stand me right now, but that's not cool, man. That's not cool at all. It's just not. Moving on. So, you know who that reminds me of? Anshul. Case file video in the description for those who want to pause this video and get context on that figure real quick. Anywho, there was a time where I showed Anshul what this girl looked like. This girl that we know looked like. Because he apparently missed it when she was there in the group video call with us. We were all close friends, and I knew that Anna wouldn't mind. Come to follow up between Anshul and I, he completely bends the motive and says that I'm harboring pictures of her on my computer to do weird and creepy things with them. This is what you're doing, mate. I resolved the issues about the entanglement with the person, and it was already established by them that their initial claims of harassment was more set out of emotional anger rather than what actually happened. You being upset with me and wanting others to be upset with me as well, you decided that using those screenshots would be the best way to do that. I don't appreciate that, mate. Fun fact, before he even did that, I warned my staff member about him being no different than Anshul. I'll admit I was more concerned than certain when I said that, but then he does this and literally backs up that prediction I had. I told my staff members, and I quote, "This may sound a little unforeseeable, but Adam is very similar to Anshul. He's fun to hang out with, despite there being a small toxic side of him that is ready to unravel in due time and circumstances." When I realized this, I stopped playing that zombie game with him to avoid another repeat, because that was setting me up to bond with him until he showed his true colors. Stay cautious. And based on that comparison that I gave above, that wound up happening. For those who are asking themselves, if you did nothing wrong, then why did the person leak those screenshots in the first place? Well, good question, and I have an answer explaining why they were leaked in the first place. So, after things happened that night, the individual later told me that they were transgender. I was very angry with them. Not because they were transgender, which I condone, but because they didn't tell me that before, allowing us to be in that situation. Had anyone noticed through the video that I've been referring to them as they and whatnot? Following that, I always refused to call them their preferred gender in game. Not to bully them or anything. This is just a personal belief of mine, and there are lots of other people with that belief. I believe that one should not be obligated to call someone the gender that they prefer rather than the gender that they biologically are. And if you disagree, that's completely fine. Tell me your thoughts on that in the comment section and we can talk about it. Anyways, they were upset by me not accommodating to their identity. So out of emotional anger, they showed a bunch of screenshots that made me appear as harassing them. We talked later that day, and I explained to them that they can't punish me for not doing something that I can't obligate myself to do. I can't obligate myself to see a male as a woman, and vice versa. Some people make it their mission to gender people correctly based on what that person would like, but that's entirely optional. And I'm not saying all of this to make this video go to very argumentative territory. I'm basically trying to explain why things went in that direction. We came to an agreement that day, and after that agreement, it was over up until the screenshots resurfaced. But the person and I are on good terms, no beef at all. Perhaps it would have been wise of me to make an announcement or something divulging that. However, I thought they were shoved down that pipeline really deep. So I didn't expect for Adam or whoever to steal out those screenshots and use them against me after it's been taken care of, basically. Scandal aside, there is a list of things I have to debunk in offense of a case file. However, guessing by the narration that I pre-typed for this video, I have a huge feeling that the video is going to be too long before I can get to that point. So I will definitely dive into that in a second video. Consider it an upcoming part 2. I'm going to explain why there is a reasonable speculation for Mystery M and his party, and see if I can take the advice of others instead of trying to debunk every single thing that I said about me. So turn on notifications for this channel. I'm going to try to have it out as soon as possible. The main focus for this video was to debunk the sexual harassment claims and explain the origin of it and why it suddenly resurfaced. For the time being, that is all for now, folks. See you soon.